Well, I used to have this thing when I was a dancer, and taxi drivers would say, "What do you do at the Opera House?" And I used to say I was a mechanist because, I don't know, I just felt in the 80s as a male, being a ballet dancer, it was a bit sort of, But then I started having a bit of success, so I decided I can't lie to taxi drivers anymore. So now I tell people what I do, and usually when I say I'm an artistic director, they sort of go, "Oh, what's that?" So then it usually lasts the whole taxi ride to explain what an artistic director does. But yeah, I tell them basically I work for the Australian Ballet. I'm in the artistic area, and I get to be in charge of everything that goes on stage. So it's a pretty easy explanation, but it makes for an interesting cab ride sometimes. Oh look, of course, I'd have to say Billy Elliot. For a whole young generation of male dancers, it's sort of vindicated what we do. And I think for a lot of people that really didn't understand, what it was like for me growing up as a young guy doing ballet, it actually opened up a door to a greater understanding of males in dance. And I think there's still, we still talk about the Billy Elliot factor, bringing boys into dance. And, the fact is now there are many more young boys doing all sorts of dance, but specifically ballet. So I think Billy Elliot would be, I would have been pretty excited to be that young boy. I have an absolute aversion to planning, and yet I know that structure is one of the basis for what you need to do to be successful. I think planning is like rehearsals for me. It's the thing you have to do to then get on stage and perform. And I think the best thing about a strategic plan is that it can change, and it's dynamic and it's alive. I think if you set a plan and follow it too closely and in too much detail, then you miss the opportunities. And I think it's the opportunities that make an organisation great. I've been really lucky to have so many people that have been great mentors, and I would say my early ballet teachers. I learned from this amazing woman, Evelyn Hodgkinson, who taught, syllabus in a studio, but she took me on as a young boy when a lot of other teachers weren't interested. So I think she was an incredible influence. And then when I went to the Australian Ballet School, Dame Margaret Scott was the director of the ballet school. And throughout my time as a student, but also as a professional, and now as an artistic director, she's been an incredible inspiration. She's a woman who's 90 now, and incredibly vital, incredibly intelligent, and so passionate about the art form. And whenever I spend time with her, I always feel, inspired again. I get really angry about people who really say they don't like ballet or they don't get dance, who never go and have never gone. I'm really happy if people say, I went to the ballet and I hated it and I never want to go back. In some ways that's fine, because there's a lot of things in the life that I don't particularly like either. But it really annoys me when people say, oh, ballet's a load of, whatever. And you say, well, when was the last ballet you went to? Or, when was, oh, I've never been. And you just go, how can you actually say that about something that you have no knowledge or no perception of? It's just entrenched bigotry against, the art form. You only have to go to a kindergarten or spend time with children, and music goes on and they all start dancing. It's almost like an instinctive response. And yet we're so stitched up in this sort of Anglo male environment that, it's sort of like seen as something that's girly or weak, or, you only have to look at what you have to do to be a professional dancer in any genre, to see the strength, dynamism, professionalism, discipline that goes into putting a performance on stage, be it, contemporary dance, ballet, ballroom, tap. It's a hugely skilled area. What the other thing is that frustrates me about that is Australia is incredibly internationally recognised for producing some of the greatest dancers in the world over a very long period of time. So we are as good at dance as we are at probably better than we are in some of the sports, and it's just not recognised. So that's when I get really cross and jump up and down on my soapbox. Australians should be very proud of their dancers. I think the thing that I never realised when I started being a manager was that 98% of your time is actually about the people. And I thought it was going to be all about, you know, making lists and being strategic and, you know, working on plans and, you know, and delivering those, and then everyone would just do it and it'd be great. When I realised the hard way that actually you can put the best plan together that you've ever thought of, but if you don't get the people to believe in it and come with you on the journey, then, you know, it's a waste of time. So I think the thing that I have learned is that you have to keep saying the same thing over and over and over until everyone is saying it back to you, and then you know you've got the job done. The other thing that I wished I had have known was that if you have some sort of psychological, you know, psychology expertise, that would be enormously wonderful, because really to be a manager you have to be a counsellor and a parent and a, you know, and an inspirator and a, you know, you're so many things for so many people that it would be great to have that sort of knowledge before you take on a role where you're actually managing people. And you know, 98% of my job is managing people, and 98% of the time it's a joy. It's just those 2% sometimes that you go like, oh my God, what am I going to do now?